the emergence of sound money was predestined in the choices that Satoshi made.
Does Bitcoin actually have a spirit or a central ethos to it, or is that just a byproduct of the early adopters that came in? Two kind of different veins. One in the sense that like email doesn't have an ethos. There's no culture around email. It's just a tool. And then secondly, as well, because it speaks directly to, removing the filter, removing the op return, that even if it does nothing, it is a message and it is a communication. Like the action does have a communicative effect regarding it, signaling like, okay, look, it doesn't actually help with the monetary use case, but at least signals that we're here for a monetary use case, right? So it does have some value, I think, in that messaging component. So broadly speaking, goes into art and all this fun stuff as well too. Does Bitcoin have a spirit and an ethos, or is that just a reflection of the early users?
Well, it absolutely does. Whether that survives is the is the question. Whether or how it changes and how it gets diluted. Like, does America have an ethos? Right. Well, at the time of the revolution, right, there was a very clear ethos, right, and you can read the essays of the founding fathers, and you can read the Constitution, and it starts with the big three words: "We the people." Right. Like this is, and it has a Bill of Rights, and so this was the idea of a nation where individuals had rights above that of the state. The state existed only to protect their rights. Right? That was the idea of America. I wish that was still the idea of America. And for many
Yeah.
Americans, it is. And it spread throughout the world. And we thought, when I was in high school and my first years of university, that idea was actually spreading throughout the world. And Canada adopted its own Bill of Rights in, I think, 1982. I was 12 years old at the time and was learning about it at school. And it had maybe some clauses that weren't as strong, that weakened it. So it wasn't as strong as the American Constitution, but there was still a Bill of Individual Rights, a Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And many other nations in the world were copying the same idea. But we now live in a world where that isn't the culture anymore. People are prepared to trade off their individual rights and those of their neighbors for security, money, all sorts of things. And so the idea isn't as well enforced, but the spirit's still there, right? The American spirit, why so many people want to live in America, and why some people who've never set foot in America say, I am an American in spirit, because they believe in individual rights. That is very much what we're going through in an accelerated manner in Bitcoin. There are people who say money should be undebasable, unseizable, finite, measurable, divisible, transmissible, permissionless, censorship resistant, all of these terms that we use, which are the idea and ethos behind the creation of Bitcoin and its manifestations. Satoshi could have made all sorts of other considerations that would have made those features diluted, different, altogether not existent, but he didn't. Right. And so people were attracted to Bitcoin because its technology produced these effects, right? The emergence of sound money was predestined in the choices that Satoshi made in creating it. So Bitcoin absolutely has a spirit. The spirit of Bitcoin was the spirit that Satoshi figured out a way to put into it. The ideas weren't all his in terms of what money should do, but he found a way to engineer a decentralized digital money that did do that. And that's the great invention, and that's the great spark. So any attempts to dilute Bitcoin's ability to be money is controversial. And this, again, going back to this controversy, right? It's like there's two traits, right? Like, is money meant to just be exchanged? That's the not side. Or is money more important than money is permissionless, so you can make paper airplanes out of it too, right? That's the debate. Like, that's what it's coming down to. And which is more important, because it seems that these two things come up. If they could both exist harmoniously, then there wouldn't be a debate. But there appears to be a trade-off between these things. The more paper airplanes you make with money, the less people see this thing as money, especially during its adoption period. And the more you restrict people from doing anything other than money with it, the more you risk preventing people from doing money things with it too, would be the core side of the extreme core side of the debate.
It almost seems like it's a push and conflicting forces between permissionlessness and fungibility.
It's not so much fungibility. I think it is just, it's purity. Like it's the permissionlessness versus focus, and I think that because because software is so malleable and can do so many things. The argument that has come from the core side, some proponents of the core side, is Bitcoin is just a database. Well, you know everything is just a database, right? So if you say that Bitcoin is just a database, you're saying Bitcoin's no different than anything else, and you're not saying it's the greatest money that's ever existed, and that's the purity element of it. So this, I think, is where people are really caught in the issue of focus, right? Like, if you part of why Bitcoin has succeeded so well against all the other shitcoins that have come out is it's not a platform for shitcoins. It's not making promises of things in the digital world that aren't true. It's just trying to serve and be money. And so maintaining that laser focus, and it's a big prize, and it's an important service to humanity. And that's why so many people care so much about restricting its use cases to the monetary ones and not into JPEGs and other tokens and all sorts of other things that have nothing to do with money in and of itself.
No, fair enough. I think perhaps fungibility was the wrong word there, because it's almost the idea that alternative uses for money make things worse money. The fact that gold has alternative uses makes it actually a worse money. The fact that, like, your house should never be a monetary value, a monetary asset, but we treat it like one, especially in Canada. And we'll talk a little bit about Canada in a second here. But non-monetary uses for a monetary medium detracts from its ability to be a monetary medium. Go for it.
That's really well put. Like, I think that's the key. And one of the like, if I take your gold example, like, because gold has other uses, jewelry, tooth fillings, other things, there's a trade-off in the utility. Like, we could use gold for its industrial uses, but we don't, because it becomes monetary. We could use all the houses that are being unoccupied and not lived in for housing.
For shelter?
Yeah, for shelter. Go figure, using a house for shelter, if it weren't for their monetary use cases. Bitcoin, up until JPEGs, had no other utility other than money. And so it allows all the other things that could be monetized to be used instead for their utilitarian applications, right? And now we're finding things that make Bitcoin more expensive and inconvenient to use for stupid applications like JPEGs, which don't need to be stored on Bitcoin, right? And so, and whose ownership is a whole other discussion, because everyone who runs the Bitcoin blockchain actually has all these JPEGs. So the owners don't really have any special access to them at all whatsoever. So it's like, this is why people care so much about making good money. It solves the housing problem. It solves the utility of gold problems. It solves the permissionlessness problem. And so we've got now two debates around, well, who's after permissionless money? The people who want to put JPEGs on Bitcoin, or the people who don't? And you can have a real fist fight, like virtual battle over who's right in this thing.
Hey, you. Yes, you watching the Bitcoin price movements and the latest exciting news. It's awesome to stay informed, but the real power of Bitcoin comes from taking control. Don't just watch, take action. Head over to btcsessions.ca/learn for free step-by-step tutorials that guide you through every major skill you need to know, plus full video playlists for deeper dives on any topic you like. And if you're ready for the ultimate fast track, scroll to the bottom and check out bitcoinmentor.io for premium one-on-one experience with my team of Bitcoin experts to ensure you get it right the first time. Don't wait. Secure your Bitcoin future today. Hit the link in the show notes or scan the QR code on the screen.
If you enjoyed this clip of Tomer Strolight from the Mentor Sessions podcast, check out the full episode by clicking the link on the screen or down below in the description.